call that. There is a way of using religious belief in literature, which you've been very prominent in using in this way, haven't you? And can you tell us something about this? It's a not big subject, isn't it?
Well, first of all, the gods have always been an endless creative metaphor in sculpture, painting, poetry, of course, epic poetry, drama in particular, and all societies. I don't know any society which is an exception. And it seems to me, first of all, as a craftsman and with some poetic sensibilities, it seems to me obvious that I must exploit this very rich aspect of my own heritage. But there's another reason why I am very decidedly and objectively prejudiced in favor of many of our deities. First of all, I think they're far more truthful than others. They do not hide the warts. They present the gods in very human terms. All our gods can literally be slapped around if they misbehave. In other words, if anything can be attributed to them, which society at any given moment realizes is not in their interest. In other words, society grows, and these gods grow with societies. Now, there's another and very important reason. We're not exceptional in this, but we're talking just now of these very destructive religions, these excessive religions, enthusiastic religions. African gods, African religions are among the handful in the world, especially Yoruba deities, among the handful in the world, which do not proselytize. Those who follow them are not interested in persuading others to follow. They have no jihadic complex at all. Therefore, they are not a menace socially, politically. They are there. And they are integrated. They're not given a special alienated space from the rest of society, from the other activities of society. They're tied up to day-to-day activities, planting, hunting, studying, learning, philosophy. The whole philosophy of society is, they're brought into the philosophy of society. They're not sort of deus ex machina. They live on the hearth of society, on the doorstep. Their manifestations are very earthy. And so, objectively, I'm even prejudiced in favor of many of our deities. As I said, the warts are there. And so they can be used as kind of symbolic explications of both what is good in society, what works for society, and what is wrong for society. They're limitless. Now, we've had in our own society, I'm constantly doing battle with them, some of the critics in our society who see these gods as an obstacle. And each time I say, prove it. Show me today any follower of Shango or Ogun or Oya who has refused to accept modern technology, treatment, unlike certain religions, even in the United States where they will not allow their children to have blood transfusion, the Jehovah's Witnesses and so on and so forth. Just show me any religion in our society which turns its face against progress, turns its back to progress, turns its back to new experience, turns its back to, to any normal development of society. It's impossible. You can't find them. So, both as a poet and also as somebody who recognizes the fact that strongly structured, quote-unquote, superstitions, which many people try to suggest these are, like Christianity, Islam, have not yet been eradicated in the world. Are playing, and you have atomic scientists, space scientists, who go regularly to church, take their children to church, baptize their children, get married in church, which is for me another, hugely but magnificently structured superstition, like Islam also. Here's one religion which makes no grandiose claims for itself, just is available to be used. So I would say to them, when you wiped out these other superstitions, you can come back to me and say that Ogun should not have his pride of place in the pantheon of the world.
Yeah. Technology can assist sacred princes and theocracies, very much so at present time. I'm wondering how you feel about princes and rulers. The princes, the Obas, the kings of Nigeria, crop up frequently in Nigerian literature. Young men, young writers like to bring them in as the ones who produce the wise proverbs, do you know? It happens in very, very frequently. I like it. But I was wondering, how do you feel about kingship in our modern world?
Murderous.
Do you?
Yes, I'm absolutely murderous about them. I just think that they are yet another waste of time. And in some cases, they are harmless. You know, your monarchical system in Great Britain, for instance, I can never get worked up about it. I think nice, colorful fossils, you know, strewn around the landscape. Anyhow, but in societies like ours, oh, I think it's about time we did something about, because they are still a pernicious influence. Many of them, the majority of them, are against, you know, economic and political progress. I've used them once or twice. I thought, in fact, when I wrote Kungi's Harvest, I thought it was an opportunity to pay tribute to what I thought would be their colorful past and write them off. You see that by the end of the play, with, you know, the Obadan Lola there, who's also an earthy, lovable, many of them are lovable rogues. You know, make no mistake about that. You know, I'll miss them when we finally got rid of them. I will miss them. They add something to, you know, to life, to societies. That shouldn't be too cut and dried, I agree. But they are a nuisance in many African societies. They are retrogressive. They can be relied upon. Those sort of, the sort of reference you made just now to secret religious worship or secret, what did you say? Many of them, under their benevolent, urbane, and fatherly, paternal mien, you know, father of everybody. Some of them have contributed in, you know, in really devastating ways to the problems we've had in Nigeria. And it always saddens me when, as happened recently, when this new military regime came in, one of their first acts was to start courting these Obas before they even started tackling serious problems in society. They were sending delegations to all the Obas. Well, this merely confirms what I'm saying. One, they recognize on the one hand the nuisance potential of these Obas, and they wanted to get that away from them. But at the same time, I think it's a great pity, you know. See, I would like to see them, you know, since I know they cannot maybe be got rid of all at once. Nyerere did it, mind you. I think it was Nyerere, not so, yeah? He did. I think he made them an offer they couldn't refuse. It was either he or another African leader. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, I think they should be given sort of honorific positions, health boards, philanthropic. I think they should go there in their beads, their agbada. They should, you know, conduct the various ceremonies. You know, open public buildings and so on and so forth. But they should be left with absolutely no power, and not one plot of land should still belong to them, because they cause trouble with the amount of land they still control.
In your comedy, The Lion and the Jewel, my wife is using it at the moment in a girls' school. They are all very taken with this old chief. I take it you're thinking of him as a figure of comedy rather than a man to admire.
Oh, yeah, the figure of comedy, but at the same time, he's, I said before that some of them can be very, very seductively, you know, attractive. He's a rascal. And in my place, I have a soft spot for some rascals. Brother Jero is another rascal. He's on the same level as Baroka. Not a vicious person, you know. And no, he you know, and in any case, I like the idea, which is a reality of man's society, of the old man getting the better of the mixed-up young man, because this is the whole point. Luckily, his opponent is a mixed-up fool. You know, he's a figure of comedy too, not a tragic figure or anything of the sort. You know, and how can he match the worldly wise Baroka? Impossible.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering how much the English side of your education has influenced your thinking. I was thinking both of you studying under Wilson Knight with his great Shakespearean and Byronic concerns, and with his concern for things like church and crown, for instance. I was wondering how much that has influenced in your understanding of modern Africa and the world.
Not much. Wilson Knight and Bonami Dobre were very great influences on me, but not literature-wise. They were influences on me because they were exceptional. They very reassuringly destroyed my notion of what the Englishman, the English Don, is. Bonami Dobre was a pagan. He's an out-and-out pagan. I mean, no question at all about it. He really appreciated the pagan richness of life, of architecture, of art forms, and so on. And he used to chat with him, discuss with him, visited him in his Greenwich home a couple of times. I liked him a lot. Wole Soyinka was, again, a wild one in a different direction. He was a mystic, and he was his strange, lucid, disorganized approach to what I call straight English lit fascinated me a lot. So in that sense, you know, I think they gave me the confidence to look at literature and to look at the literary heritage of my society. Literary heritage of my society in ways which I, you know, already, you know, passionately believed in. As human beings, they were enormous influence on me because they sort of complemented this straight academic English line of thinking which was taught, you know, by the rest of the staff. I was very glad I met them.
I think you sent some of your writing from imprisonment to Wole Soyinka, and I think there's one of these essays here, the fourth choice, is it?
The fourth stage.
The fourth stage, that's right. That you also sent to Wole Soyinka. So you must have been... No? Oh,
no, I didn't. Oh. No, I was invited to contribute to his Festschrift. And I wrote that just before I was arrested. So it was sent to whoever, I can't, it was sent to, in fact, to Jefferson, who was editing I think, no, not Jefferson, it was Jefferson, I think, who was editing it. I wasn't corresponding with him. I have, no, after I left the university, I wasn't really in much correspondence with my lecturers.
I see.
No, it's very rarely, no.
Mm-hmm. And of course, just recently we read your book, Ake, which came out at the same time as your Opera Wonyosi, two very, very different kinds of books. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about Ake and your, really, you might say Anglican upbringing in a way, with your mother wild Christian and the Scoutmaster called activity, and everybody being what I would call C of E, you know? And I was wondering how strong that upbringing was on your thinking. Or have you, so to speak, reacted against it or found it valuable?
No, I remember one of the, in the school magazine, one of the first things I wrote in school was Ideals of an Atheist. I became, at least lent very much towards atheistic thinking from about 11 and a half, 12. And so it could have been a reaction to their intense Christianity, I don't know. But one thing is that one thing which I cannot deny is that for me, I found a great deal of literary metaphors in the Bible. And of course, I was raised with the Bible, as with a hymn book and so on and so forth. So those metaphors keep cropping up from time to time. For me, the Bible is just like the Iliad, or Ballad of Gilgamesh, or Yifa, corpus of poetry and things like that. So from that point of view, yes, you know, that's something which I gained from the Christian religion, same way as from the Bhagavad Gita, the Buddhist religion. And but somehow I came to turn against the Christian religion very early in life, very, very early.
And the polytheistic religions of Greece, was that more in your way of thinking?
Definitely, definitely. I was immediately fascinated by the Greek gods from childhood. I think one of the books which I used to read from my father's shelf as a child one of them certainly contained a potted version of the Odyssey, the Iliad, and some Greek myths and so on. I think that much I do remember.
And you wrote that very interesting version of the Bacchae, of course, years later, did you not?
Yes.
And that I've always felt that some of those Greek semi-religious plays are rather akin to Nigerian thinking.
Yes, indeed, yes. In fact, a number of sort of classical scholars have been quarrying in that minefield and, you know, constantly drawing parallels. Parallels were there from the very beginning. In fact, one of these days, the Greeks are dependent.
What you're working on now?
Right, normally, I don't like to talk about what I'm working on, but in this case, we're nearly coming close to the end, and it's also some, a little bit away from what we've been talking about in terms of form. It's a film, which, in fact, I returned here to edit. It's a film which I conceived as far back as April. No, in fact, long before that. I wanted to shoot it, get it ready, say, by April last year, so that it could play its role in the elections, just to be a straightforward political film. And but we couldn't get the resources for it. Eventually, we managed to get something, and I started working on it in December. In fact, about 2 weeks before the coup, we started the actual shooting. 2 weeks before the coup, which of course created problems because it was designed as a full indictment of Shagari's government and literally a call for it to be resisted by all means. And so halfway through the shooting, the coup came, and a lot of the, shall we say, the message became a little bit redundant. The whole film had to be reshaped, had to discard sections which we'd already shot. So it was quite a challenging thing. It's shot in 60 millimeter, just a small film. I designed it from the word go as literally a call to, to resistance against that fascist government, because the prospect of another 4 years under them was just not anything which I fancied and which I think most people were not prepared to accept. So now what we have is it's built on a sort of a real story, by the way, of an attempt to murder a student who was working for that party, which has been overthrown now, and we managed to rescue him, and so now we just made it a straightforward storyline with the material. It's been interesting.
Is it in English, by the way?
It's in English. The student, and the English, alas, still is the language of politics in Nigeria, of worship, of the newspapers, of the courts, of even the announcement of coups. So.
And you rather expect your work to be translated from English when it goes into other languages, I suppose.
Oh, that's been done. That's
yes,
done
right.
all the time. And it's been translated into, I was most gratified as very rabid, I've been told, champion of Kiswahili as a continental language for Africa. Some of my works have been translated into Kiswahili, into Japanese, into Polish, into Hungarian, into Russian, into a little language in East Africa. I can't quite remember the name. It's in Uganda, one of the little-known languages there as well. Indian languages. So, the whole question of writing in one language or the other has become, in fact, has always been very, very academic with me, very academic.
You don't feel that you're losing a great deal when it's translated?
Oh, inevitably.
Yes.
But depending on the translator, heaven knows what he brings into it, or he or she brings into it. I translated Fagnua's Forest of 1,000 Demons from the Yoruba into English, and I like to think that in addition to inevitably losing quite a lot of the richness of Yoruba language, I like to think that I also try to compensate for it by bringing something extra into it, which the original did not have. So I think translation is it's a lose and gain kind of exercise, which and we've all been raised in literature in translation from all languages. I can't read Chinese, and I read, and I've even taught Chinese poetry. So.
Yes, I tend to think of you as part of English literature, you see, in my imperialist way, and I think of
don't let my Nigerian colleagues hear that. Oh, they will say we said it. We've always said it.
The monkey sweats. The monkey sweats, my child. It's only the hair upon his back that still deceives the world. Well, it just is an English quotation. I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah, great, sir.
This territorial aggrandizement of this.
Tell me, what European writers do you read nowadays?
I've been reading mostly of recent biographies. I have to confess I've been rereading, in fact, a lot of political biographies. Somehow I find myself being moved in that direction out of curiosity. This perennial question, and I mean also histories, but the biographies of the large-scale actors on world history. I find for some, well, not strange reason, I think just this perennial question of, is, and isn't one constantly replaying the same text which has been played by other people, and so rereading these, very few of them are new, and just wondering. I must confess that has sort of been my main reading fodder over the last year or two, the last year or so. No, it's a personal thing.
Do you think of yourself still as a dramatic poet or a poetic dramatist?
Oh, no, I don't think of myself as any label at all. I just, as I say, I work in all sorts of idioms. I've even made a record. When we couldn't do that film I was talking about earlier, we made a political record, which, so if I suddenly find I can write now, I know I can go into the pop charts.
And I suppose I ought to ask you about the specific thing of being an African rather than a Nigerian, so to speak. Do you have a feeling that you have a particular political duty as a writer as an African, a man from that particular continent?
Well, I've never escaped or attempted to escape that. I think it's been impossible for me. From the moment when, for instance, it's impossible not to feel an African while the kind of situation which you have in Southern Africa exists. It's impossible not to feel. But when you say an African rather than a Nigerian writer, I question that a little because, well, it's wrong to say I feel a Nigerian writer. I think maybe I'll accept that I just feel I'm an African writer more than I feel I'm a Nigerian writer. But I'm an African writer using material, exploiting material, which happens to be located in my immediate environment, which is Nigeria, and again, metaphorically speaking, that is in the use of metaphors, Yoruba as well. I think that really is the truth of the matter.
Yes, I see that. Yes. Shall we go on a little bit longer?
I think that's it.
Do you? Yes.
I think Warren's had enough.
I think
You've given us plenty of stuff.
There's plenty of material there, isn't there? Actually, lots of